Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley, and I am here at A4M with now my new best friend, Ben Azadi. But he is the host of the Metabolic Freedom podcast. It is a very, very well-known, famous podcast, and one of the podcasts that I listen to that actually gives me solid information, and I truly mean that. So if you guys are listening to this podcast, if you want any information about metabolism, diabetes, any type of autoimmune, in my opinion, you're one of the sources that I would direct people to go to.
Thank you.
So, brother, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to chat with you.
Dude, I'm so happy. When Bev was telling me that we could all meet up and just like have people that I've been in this space only in my world, you know, like doing Chinese medicine stuff. Like I've been practicing for like over 20 years, but going into the social media podcast world, only been a few years. But there's people that you respect and people that you listen to, but you're too shy. I don't really reach out to anybody. I try to let everybody have their space, you know? But you really do have people that you respect and have like basically a need to listen to, and also have the confidence to tell other people to go listen to. So when you have confidence and you see other people have confidence, I'm thankful for that, actually. This is a new world for me. So thanks for, joining in on it with me today.
It's an honor. I love what you do. It's so important.
Man. Thank you. We were talking about Franklin. We're talking about where I'm at.
Yep.
One thing I love to talk about before we jump in is where you're from, and people probably already know, but some people don't. So where are you from? Can you tell some of your backstory, why you got into the Metabolic Freedom, and
of course,
what makes you love it so much?
So I live in Miami, born and raised, first generation American. Yeah. Parents immigrated from the Middle East, from Iran.
Ah.
And a really crazy story. So my parents had a huge age gap, about 40-year difference, because they do arranged marriages in Iran. So that was the case for my parents. So my dad was working in Iran with this American doctor that would fly over there from time to time. This doctor, like my dad, offered him a job in Miami, Florida, late 70s, right?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I'll take the job. So him and my mom flew to the United States, started living there. I was born in 84, right? So thank God they made that decision, because I was able to be born in this great country. But as I started to grow up as a kid, parents divorced, mom worked 3 jobs. Kentucky Fried Chicken was one of the jobs, by the way. Yep. And I was really unhealthy growing up. I was actually physically obese as a kid. I was overweight, obese, physically, mentally obese. I was bullied and picked on. I had addictions to drugs, alcohol, video game addictions, food addiction. And I remember my mom would bring me home Kentucky Fried Chicken all the time, and I would eat it. Of course, this fried vegetable oils, which we'll talk about. Yeah. But I don't blame her. She was doing the best she could do with her resources. You know that, having a lovely mom as well. Yeah. So growing up unhealthy, experiencing addictions, physical obesity, mental obesity, all that transferred into my early adulthood. And in 2007, Chris, I was going through a bad breakup, and I was rock bottom. It actually started with working on my mindset. I started to read books from Dr. Wayne Dyer, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, all these incredible people. And I remember Wayne Dyer would say things like, you got to stop blaming other people for your problems. He would say things like, that's a victim mentality. He said, if other people are the cause of your problems, you would have to hire a psychiatrist for the rest of the world in order for you to get better. And I was like, that's true. I'm blaming my genetics, slow metabolism, enabling family members. I was blaming everybody but the actual person who was responsible. And I really learned that word responsibility from Wayne Dyer. It's your ability to respond to life. My ability to respond to life was poor, so I had poor results. When I took ownership and changed my ability to respond to life, I started to get better results. So changed my mindset. 9 months later, after taking ownership, I went from 250 pounds to 170 pounds. I lost 80 pounds of fat, 34% body fat to as low as 6% body fat, completely changed my physical appearance. But yes, I achieved a physical six-pack, but what it did for my mental six-pack was more important. And that's what got me in the health space. That was about 17 years ago.
Wow.
And I dealt with the broken metabolism and all the challenges a lot of people have these days. And I have experienced it myself, and I know how to overcome it. And that's what I want to talk about today.
Oh, man, I'm with you about Wayne Dyer. I got to see Wayne right before he passed away.
Wow.
And I remember my buddy who was with me, pretty well-known magician. He was like American's Got Talent. He would always want me to go see like Wayne Dyer, and I was like, I didn't really know Wayne Dyer. I saw one of his books. Literally, I was doing a running camp in Colorado. I saw a Wayne Dyer book up in Castle Rock, Colorado, and I thought erogenous zones, and I was like, what? And then I was like, you know what? I want to meet this guy, and and listen to him. But he spoke so profoundly about, like, one of the statements was like, he goes, you have to be careful that you don't create your own problems. And I was like, me, I'm like, nobody creates their own problems and such. And then I started really digging deep into that phrase. And then I went to the conference, and then right before we ran up, he was getting into the limousine, and we got to like take pictures with him and stuff. And then they said like a few weeks later he'd passed. So when you have those people that influence you and then change your life, and then you change your life, how do you find, like, what was one of the pathways, or what are the information that you knew you wanted to start off speaking about? Like, you're talking about mindset, you're talking about metabolism, how you healed your, the mind. What was the first thing that you really started to go after when you started giving out information?
The first thing is that you cannot outperform your self-image, the way you view yourself, right? So I lost 80 pounds. I was physically fit with six-pack abs, but I was looking in the mirror. Even though I'm seeing myself with six-pack abs, my subconscious mind still viewed me as an obese person for years, even after the transformation. And I kept finding ways to gain the weight back to be congruent with that self-image of myself. So many people who try to lose weight or try to get healthy, if their self-image is of a diabetic or an obese person or this autoimmune condition, if they identify that with that, they could make progress, and they will find ways to course correct to go back to that self-image. And that was the first thing that I noticed that I was doing.
When you did that, though, okay, so the recognition came after you got into like learning about self-help. Is that what? And then when you you saw that, what was the first step and first action you did? Like, what started this train rolling?
I started to study, okay, what builds the self-image? And there's only one thing that builds the self-image. It's something called paradigms. Paradigms are a multitude of habits that are embedded into our subconscious mind. And it just runs the show. It goes on autopilot. So what builds that is pretty much the first 7 years of my life. The relationships, the TV that I used to watch, everything, my family. And I was an obese kid, so even though I was 24 years old at the time, my self-image was still identifying as an obese man, even with six-pack abs. So I would find ways to gain the weight back. 20 pounds started to come back, 30 pounds started to come back, and I started to realize I'm doing this to myself. So then I went a little bit deeper, Chris, and I said, okay, this is my paradigm. How do we change a paradigm? And there's only two ways to change a paradigm.
Okay.
One way is an emotional impact, and usually that's a negative thing. Like, for example, like 9/11, for a lot of people that were living in 9/11 and experienced that emotional impact, it changed the way they think, it changed their entire paradigm. That's an emotional impact. That's one way. The second way is repetition, constant spaced repetition. And that's the preferred way, because if you go through an emotional impact, it's usually negative and it's unpredictable. But if you do constant spaced repetition, well, then you could actually change it yourself. And you do that with affirmations and actually changing the thoughts that you have every single day.
That's what, so the affirmations. So could you give us an example, like just like a small, like with repetition, you're saying a mantra in your head, or you're like saying something out loud?
I actually grabbed an index card and I wrote the words, I am so happy and grateful now that I am at my perfect health. The health I seek is now seeking me. I remove any blockages between us. And I would read it all day. I would say it in my head, and I would keep doing that until my subconscious mind accepted that, changed my self-image of myself of that of a healthy person.
So subconsciously, you saw yourself now as a healthy person, and then your body said, well, I'm going to follow pursuit.
Correct. And that I kept the weight off, and I've stayed lean ever since and healthy ever since.
Oh my word. Okay. So with that, when you're teaching metabolic health, metabolic training, is that the first thing like you kind of go after, is like your mindset? Is that the first thing?
So in the new book, Metabolic Freedom, chapter 10 is all about how your thoughts influence your metabolism. And I have an affirmation in there for readers to follow, print out, and it's so important.
Yes.
Because the way this works is, it's called Psycho-Cybernetics, a great book from the 1960s. Maxwell Maltz talked about this, where essentially like an airplane, I flew here from Miami, you flew here from Tennessee.
Yeah.
When an airplane takes off, the pilot puts it on autopilot. Essentially, the pilots that are there could walk to the back, hang out with us, have a conversation with us, and then just get back when they need to land the plane, because it's on autopilot. So anytime the plane goes off course, that autopilot course corrects. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. We do the same thing.
Yeah.
If our self-image is that of an unhealthy person, an obese person, a diabetic, whatever it is, we could make some progress and get the information or enroll into a program or work with a coach, but we'll keep course correcting that self-image to identify with what we identify with, which is that self-image. Wow. So that is the first thing I work on with people is changing their self-image of themselves.
I mean, like, so if you give them the quotes, the mantra, the things that they can repeat, after they do change, they start to train, how would they know, like they're saying it every day? Is there like a certain amount of time? Seriously, like they say it so many times that they know they're making a change? Or is there a number of times like to actually change their subconscious mind?
So you could speed it along by putting your focus and intent into the affirmation.
Okay.
When you read the affirmation or say it in your head, the more focus and emotions you put into it, the faster it will happen for you. For some people, it could take 30 days. Mm-hmm. For some, it could take 3 years.
Wow.
Depends on how much focus and intent you put on there. But I would say this, there's a seen world, which you'll see results physically. Yeah. And there's an unseen world that you don't see. Yeah. And a lot of people lack the belief, the faith, that to know that it's actually working for them when they don't see the physical manifestation yet. What? And Bob Proctor has the greatest quote on faith that I'd love to share with your audience. Please. He said, faith is the ability to see the invisible, to believe in the incredible, so you could have what the masses believe is impossible.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that the greatest quote on faith?
That's great.
So we have to have the faith as you go through this, because there are changes happening, even if you're not seeing it physically, there's an unseen world that's happening. I
love when you talk about unseen world, like I've been studying a bit more on like biofield tuning. And I'm saying like the unseen world. And I remember one book that I was reading about, you say amplification, like putting your intention and your fervor behind something. And they describe like the unseen worlds, like you have like a membrane of this frequencies coming off your body, and there could be certain areas or certain gaps in your biofield. And the gaps need to be filled. And the gaps can allow things to come in, but that may not be the best for you, like bad thoughts and intentions, and it can allow some things to go out that need to stay internal. But one of the things, like you say, is like for people, if we could see that see the gaps, and if we could see what we are thinking and how we think can actually change, that would be incredible. So when you know that you can think about this and say it, intensify, one of the things like in frequency medicine we always say is like in Chinese medicine, if you're hitting a point, if you're doing acupuncture, sometimes I'll tell the patient, I was like, you really need to concentrate on this point. And if they do, the needle will actually change vector because it's actually changed the fascia, because all the energy goes that area. When you're starting to see that intention grow, the next step would be like as they start to heal their subconscious, do their actions naturally start to change, or do you say you need to take notice of your actions? What would be the next thing physically? Yeah,
so I mean, I want to get them some small wins for sure. I always tell them one tweak a week. Let's figure out one tweak a week. Let's get some progress here. The mindset part is the first thing. We have to change the self-image. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen over time. But the environment that we live in controls the paradigm, right? So we do an audit on the environment, right? We'd figure out where are all these inputs coming from. And I'll give you an example. Every Thursday, me and my fiance, Natasha, who's here, we have dinner with my mom. I know you have a relationship with your mom. My mom is my superhero. Oh, yeah. So every Thursday we have dinner with my mom. She makes an amazing Persian dinner. We had dinner with her last night. Amazing Persian.
I love Persian food.
Dude.
I'm not kidding, dude.
So good. When you're in Miami, I will invite you over.
I will come.
We'll have dinner with my mom.
I love Persian food. Yeah.
But here's the issue with the dinner. When we're having dinner, we are sitting at the dining room table. Yeah. Right next to us is the living room, and she has the television on the entire time. She watches the Hallmark Channel, and the TV commercials come on. Yeah. And I notice, because I don't watch TV unless it's like a sports game, but when I'm at her house, I see the commercials, and I see one big pharma commercial after another with some big food in there, mixed in there. And I did some research because I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like every single commercial was from big pharma. Yeah. This drug, this medication. So I did some research, and it turns out that 75% of all of the TV commercials in the United States are funded directly by big pharma. 75. Sheesh. And out of the 195 countries, only 2 countries allow big pharma to market directly to the consumer, the United States and New Zealand. That's it.
2 countries.
That's it. 2 countries out of the 195. That's it. And the remaining percentage, which we have 25% left, half of that is from fast food commercials, big food. So all of that input is going into your conscious mind if you're watching TV, or your subconscious mind if it's just on in the background. Your environment will determine the thoughts that you think, which determines that paradigm we spoke about, and your self-image of yourself, which then determine the actions you take or don't take, your habits, your results, and ultimately your destiny. So we have to clean up the environment. We have to stop watching TV, or if we watch TV, be really intentional with the commercials and not let it go right into that mind of yours. One of the things that Neville Goddard, who's an old author, used to say is that we are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. Weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. And television is causing that. Social media, our environment. So we have to clean up the environments. That's what I did. When I was going through my transformation, I stopped drinking. I stopped going out and partying. I stopped doing all the things that I used to do. And my environment had to change for my self-image to change.
So the programming, if that we felt like after you listen to something like a commercial that's negative or something, it's influencing you. It literally takes place in your brain, causes change, and it can literally change like your perception of yourself, your outlook, like where you're going in life. Your
habits, it changes everything. But that's what makes up the self-image and your values. So I'll give you another example.
Wow.
And this is about the, I don't know if we could say it on the podcast, we could block it out if we can, but it was about the COVID vaccine. And this is not for it or against it, but I remember when the vaccines were rolled out, I would go on Google, and you know how Google always changes the letters based off of like certain things that are happening in the world? So I noticed, because I'm becoming aware of what's happening in my environment, I noticed when I went on Google, when the vaccine was rolled out, the letters, the Google letters, all had masks on them and little Band-Aids on the letters. Right? Subconsciously going into our minds and making us, forcing us to make a decision. Subconsciously, dude. This is what's happening all the time.
So it's like auto program, like it's trying to auto program. So you would associate the image with that. And so it's actually making you feel like something's really good or really bad.
It's influencing a decision to get the vaccine.
Oh, my heavens.
Right? Okay. Because I'm consciously aware that I see that, but 9 out of 10 people are not. And that goes right into the subconscious mind. Then they find themselves at Walgreens getting the vaccine, right? It influences their decision.
So when you see something and you're aware, like, I know what's happening, is because in your body, in your programming, you've trained and you've healed, and you've sort of like made yourself more aware of like, like things that probably are, not the best for you. And then if somebody does allow, like, I could be somebody that just lets something in, in our lives, but it's because you've trained your body to become healthy enough to realize this wouldn't fit my body as well.
That's right.
Okay. So when you do that as you're training with this exercises and you're changing your mindset, you're changing how you listen to things, what are some of the, I guess, to even amplify even more, like to bring health, what do you do for like your physical health? Do you suggest like people go out and do like cardiovascular and stuff with the mindset, or do you say, no, we're just going to concentrate on the mindset right now? Well,
first start with the mindset, but eventually you want to move the body. This is so important to get the body moving, move the lymphatic system. I like strength training. I think strength training is the best out of all of it. I'm a big fan of steps and walking in general. I mean, studies show like there was a recent study looking at, I believe, over 5,000 participants, and it showed that the individuals 50,000 people in this study, the individuals that achieved 5,000 steps a day or more, which is not a lot, had a 65% less risk of dying from all-cause mortality. Than those who got less than 3,000 steps. That's not even a lot of steps.
That's what I'm not saying. It's not really.
Because it's just so beneficial to walk. So that's the first thing I have people do. If they're very inactive, I just have them get their steps. I want them to get to 10,000 steps eventually, but we'll start at 5K. And then working out is great. Strength training is great. And it doesn't have to be hours every single day or every day. 2 strength training workouts a week, 30 minutes each is enough to get you the results you want.
But I mean, you're fit. And I mean, okay, I'm going back, like, you changed your mindset, you dropped the weight, how long did it take, like, whenever you changed your mindset, that you just started seeing just stuff coming off? Was it like months, weeks, a few months, or how fast was that?
I started to see results right away. I lost 80 pounds in 9 months, but I believe the first month, this is back in 2007, right? I think the first month I lost about 15 pounds in that first month.
Wow.
But I was exercising a lot. I was, really aggressive with it. I was doing things that I wouldn't recommend now. It was really, really aggressive. But again, I lost the weight and I was finding ways to gain it back because, first of all, I realized this, Chris, nobody has a weight problem. When I was obese, I never had a weight problem. It's a weight symptom. It's a symptom of inflammation and unhealthy hormones. You know all about this.
Oh, I love hearing your perspective. This is good. So unhealthy hormones, inflammation.
Yeah.
So like when you started recognizing that, you just started to identify what was the inflammatory things in your life?
Correct. What's blocking this innate intelligence from healing my body, this inner physician, right? Wow. In the beginning, I didn't do that. I was focused on losing weight to get healthy, but that's not how the body works. I realized we get healthy to lose weight.
Yeah.
We get our hormones balanced, we lower cell membrane inflammation, the weight starts to come off. But I had to realize this as I went through it, right? Yeah. A lot of people still to this day, as you know, they're all about just cutting calories and being in a deficit, and they're focusing on losing weight to get healthy, and the body doesn't work that way.
That is a
complete opposite.
Beautiful line, man. Get healthy to lose weight.
That's right, yeah.
That's your next book, dude. Seriously, man, that's a great line. So when you get healthy to lose weight, like now it's like mindset and then, changing the auto programming internally. One of the biggest things like with metabolism that we're seeing in the country, like when you say like is sugar addiction. And we're seeing like, I guess you probably know the stats better than I do. It's like about like childhood obesity is like literally becoming pretty rampant in our country and probably around the world in some ways, but more here. Like diabetes is hitting individuals heavily, insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Can you touch a bit, because I know you have great statistics and you've great studies about like what are some of the main inflammatory things that we see in our culture? Like, maybe it's diet or life. What are you been seeing out there?
Yeah, well, I'll share some studies and I'll get into the main causes. So the book Metabolic Freedom, the first half, it's split up into two parts. The first half is all about the causes and the problems to why we have metabolic disease. The second half talks about the solutions, then it's all wrapped together in a 30-day plan to achieve metabolic freedom. But in the book, I talk about these studies, and I'll share a few of them for your audience. So in 2016, the Mayo Clinic put out a study, and they published the study, and they wanted to determine how many Americans live what they consider an active, healthy lifestyle. And they looked at 4 criteria in order to what they consider somebody who's a healthy, active lifestyle. First criteria was they don't smoke cigarettes. Second criteria was that they get moderate to vigorous activity, about 150 minutes per week total.
Okay.
The third one was that they eat a healthy diet, which they considered as just a minimally processed diet. And the fourth one was that males had a body fat percentage of 20% or less, and women had a body fat percentage of 30% or less.
Okay.
Out of those four criteria, what do you think the study showed in terms of Americans who hit that percentage? What do you think?
With that kind of statistics?
Yeah.
Man, I would say maybe I'm getting too low, like 20%.
It was actually 2.7%. Isn't that crazy? Only 2.7%.
I'm not laughing at it, son, but I can't believe it. Really?
That's what the study showed. And that was before COVID. Now, 2018 showed it was closer to 88% of Americans having some form of metabolic dysfunction. And then a 2019 study showed it was closer to like 93%. So we know it's somewhere between 88% and 93% of Americans have insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. It's a problem. But I know God didn't build the body that way. God built the body to be self-healing. Yes. So why do we have this issue, right? Yeah. That brings us to the causes. And, I'll say this. So many people believe that obesity is genetics, and a lot of these conditions are genetics. And even I remember 60 Minutes last year had this representative from the government talking about obesity, saying it's not your fault if you're obese, it's just in your genes. But it's not genetics. It's just a way for somebody to have a victim mindset about it and not take responsibility. Back to the Wayne Dyer thing. I don't think we have this obesity issue because of what people are eating, Chris. I think we have this obesity issue because of what's eating people. Whoa. They're not living on purpose with their purpose.
Dude.
They lack goals. They have goals the size of a pregnant ant, which is very small. And I know this because I live this, dude.
Yeah.
I told you I had all these addictions, right?
Yeah.
Drugs, alcohol, video games. Dude, I was one of the best video game players in the entire world. That's how much energy I was putting into it, right? When I lost the weight and I got clear on my goals, and I discovered my unique highest values, I transferred all the energy I was using on my addictions. And if you have an addiction, you use a lot of energy for addictions, a lot of it. But if you could find out what's important to you and set goals and live on purpose with your purpose, you could turn the addiction into a superpower. I've turned my addiction into a superpower. Now I use it for me, not against me. Now I feel like I'm unstoppable. I create all this content, do all these things that I love doing because it's aligned with my highest values. The reason why people struggle with their health and obesity they have no idea what they want to do. They're doing what others expect of them, what they learned in school. They don't know what's important. They don't know what they love. And in the book, I also talk about this study from Larry Dossey, medical doctor. He has a book called Recovering the Soul.
That's a great
isn't it a great title, right? I'm just inspired just by the title, right?
Recovering the Soul.
So in that book, it showed that they could predict 80. So let me re-say this. In the book, they shared a study showing that Americans suffer a heart attack 85% of the time Monday morning between 8 and 9 a.m.
What? This 89, like right before they go to work?
Going to a job they hate. 85% of the time when an American had a heart attack Monday morning between 8 and 9 in the morning.
That shows you that if you don't have a purpose or a passion about something direction, it can affect your body physically.
Inflammation, man. Yeah, stress, exactly. So I would start there.
That's
right?
exactly like totally. You know what gets me is when you said, it's really fascinating when you said like not having a purpose or direction. One of the things they always say in the Eastern medicine world is that the fire in your intestines is that when you pull in life and you ingest life, and you can pull out all the nutrients out of life, like what's coming alive. I can pull it apart and I can be able to neutralize, like not neutralize, but put nutrients into my life. That's the action of the small intestine. And one thing they say is that if it gets sick, the natural internal fire in that small intestine gets reduced. So you don't pull out the best things of life.
Interesting.
And so what they say will happen is if you get like SIBO, you'll start to notice those individuals have no direction. They'll feel pointless. And I'm like, why? Because it's so tired, they can't pull any nutrients out of anything in life. So they're going to pick the job that's not good for them, or they're going to pick the relationship that's not good for them. So I love the correlation when you talk about like a fire. So when you talk about not having vision and focus, I mean, that to me would be like probably numero uno. Like there's another one, they said that that appendix, the major time that people get their appendix taken out is some people right after they get married. And they say, why? And I was like, what was that whole statistics? And you say like, they say that the area of the appendix is the area where your food that you pull the nutrients out of gets pushed into the colon, right? It's that little passageway near that area. So you've taken something all your life, like in a relationship or parents or whatever like that, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm done with that info. I've absorbed everything I need to. Now put it into my colon to be expelled. But if you're ever like in any type of relationship, not just like, romantic, but if you're in a work relationship, and what they say is that if you realize that you can't get rid of the crap out of your life, it will stagnate in that area and it'll spasm that area right where you have that meeting ground. So to me, it's like the idea of like my mind and what I basically see and how I'm programmed can literally change my physical processes in my life. And I think that's what I love about when you talk about this, like when we talk about inflammatory foods, inflammation, is that what, maybe this is, I'm not going down a rabbit trail, but would cause somebody when they're in inflammatory state to be drawn more to those inflammatory things, like, like more foods and stuff like that, like fried foods and such, and they keep in that repetitive programming?
I think what's happening is that this is what's happening to me, so I think I could relate to the question here. They're filling a void. There's a void. They're not living on purpose with their purpose. They have no idea what's important to them, what their values are. The Greeks call it teleology, which is the study of a higher aim. The telos, they call it. Most people, unfortunately, have no idea what's important to them. So there's a void. God built the body. We have this beautiful soul inside of the body that's deathless. Our soul is deathless, and it's here for a purpose, a unique purpose. Everybody has a unique purpose. Most people have no idea what that purpose is. So there's a void there, and in order to fill that void temporarily, they want to get a dopamine hit. So that could be fast food, it could be drugs, it could be video games, like it was for me. It's a way to fill that void because you want to numb yourself temporarily. And that inflammation numbs you. That you get that dopamine hit, it numbs you. And the mind is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You've heard of the placebo effect, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's heard of it. In the book, Metabolic Freedom, I talk about the origin of the placebo effect. I'd love to share it real quick.
Tell me, what is this? I got to know this.
So in World War II, there was a doctor named Dr. Henry Beecher, and he was working with the United States Army. He was working at a medical tent with the United States soldiers. And a lot of the soldiers that were coming to his medical tent were in bad shape. They had bullet wounds. Their limbs were blown off. So what they were doing, they were administering morphine to stabilize them, transfer them to the hospital, perform a surgery, save their life. But something happened at this medical tent where the nurse that was giving Dr. Beecher the morphine, they ran out of morphine completely. So she didn't know what to do. She put salt water, saline solution, in the needles, told Dr. Beecher that he had morphine. So he had the belief he had morphine in his hands. He would see the soldier, tell the soldier, I'm going to administer morphine. I know you're in bad shape, but you're going to feel better in a matter of seconds. It's going to stabilize you. We'll transfer you to the hospital. You're going to be fine. He transferred that belief to the soldiers, and most of them survived, right? So the war ended.
No.
The war ended. Harvard studied what happened in that medical tent, and that's where the placebo effect started. That was the origin.
The strength of the mind, dude.
Strength of the mind. But here's the thing. It could work against you, and it's the nocebo effect. So in the book, I share the story of this. This is a crazy story.
I love stories, man. Yeah.
This railroad employee, this is from the 1970s, 1960s. This guy worked in a refrigerator cart on a train station.
Yeah.
And he was working late one night, and all of his coworkers left for the night, and he locked himself in the refrigerator cart on that train. And he was freezing.
Yeah.
And he's banging on that door to be let out. Nobody's around. Everybody left. So he knew that nobody was going to be there for several hours. Yeah. So he started writing on the wall kind of his journey throughout the night. Like at 12 a.m., he was writing, I am so cold. I am freezing in here. I don't know how I'm going to make it in the morning when somebody comes in. At 1 a.m., still cold. I can't find a way to warm myself up. 2 a.m., freezing. I think I'm going to freeze to death. At 7 a.m., his coworkers clocked in. They opened up that door, and the guy died. He froze to death.
Oh, man.
But here's the interesting thing. Yeah. The temperature apparatus in that refrigerator cart had been broken for days, and it never got below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. He was seeing a different temperature, and his mind created hypothermia.
Oh, my
So if the mind is that powerful, if it has the ability to do that, it has the ability to heal the body as well.
Amazing.
Crazy story.
Man. Oh, yeah. I can't even follow. That's okay. What? Okay. So if your mind is that strong and people here are listening and saying, well, can you change? We're saying yes, your physical body with how you believe and think. Mm-hmm. And you take the steps that you're talking about. What are some of the biggest, I guess, infections or the biggest conditions with inflammation that you're noticing that people are coming to you with, and you say, like with mindset, that you're seeing the biggest changes? Because I love stories, man. I got to hear more stories.
Yeah.
This is good. Yeah.
It's a great question. Autoimmune diseases are a big one. Yeah. I know you deal with a lot of that as well, right? I remember Sally, who had severe autoimmune and long COVID. She almost died from COVID, and then she got out of the hospital, and then she had long COVID, a long haul syndrome, and which is very similar to autoimmune. And she kept calling herself a COVID survivor. Yeah. She's like, I'm a COVID survivor. I said, Sally, no, you got to change the way you see yourself. You're a COVID thriver. You're not a survivor. Like your self-image cannot be a survivor. It needs to be a thriver. Once you get into from the survive state to a thrive state, your body will go and start to work on healing yourself. So ever since then, she started calling herself a COVID thriver instead of a survivor, and she's been progressing very nice, right? Yeah. So it works really well for people who are identifying with their condition. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this, Chris, but so many people who are like 7 medications, they kind of brag about it with other people who are on medication. Oh, I take that one too. And there's kind of. And there's a reason for it, because when they have a medical condition, people treat them nicer, right? People support them in different ways that they probably wouldn't get if they were not, diabetic or on this medication, or they needed assistance. So there's some support there. And if they got healthy, subconsciously, their mind knows that they wouldn't get that support. So they don't want to get healthy because they want to continue to get that support. right? So there's some things that are just deep in the subconscious that we need to go back and change the self-image. It all goes back to the self-image.
I would say, like, when patients that come in, I'm going to pay more attention to this, because at times, and no blame to my patients if you guys are listening, but they'll say, oh, I'm a mess. Oh, I'm a hot mess. Oh, there's too many things wrong with me. Like, this is what's happening. When people accumulate that kind of mindset, is that something that you like tell them, like, you better make sure your words, that what you say, because you can self-speak and speak it over yourself, kind of?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I hear that all the time too. Whatever comes after I am is very powerful.
Oh, man. Okay, so changing the gears, I'm saying, like, when they have an autoimmune.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like, one of the things I think we just talked about before we come on was, like, diabetes type 2. Like, we're not just like focused on diabetes. I'm just saying, like, any condition, but one of the powerful statements you said is, like, this country could reverse diabetes type 2. What, like, I don't know how many people are suffering from. I know it's a lot of people.
About 60% of Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic.
60%?
60, yeah.
Oh my word. Okay, so
hundreds of millions, over 100 million.
Yeah, over 100 million people. Yeah. When you start this process with them, what is, we already talked about some of the mindset, and we talked about physicality. What are you hoping to see, like, hopefully with new administration, not talking politics too much or something, but what are, like, main things that they would, like, say for children? Like, what would you tell people, this is what you got to get rid of out of your diet and such, and this is what you need to remove?
Yeah, such an important question.
Yeah.
The inflammatory fats are probably the worst thing out there.
Yeah.
Arguably worse than sugar and even
really?
Smoking. Yeah, I interviewed Dr. Kate Shanahan. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
So she, for the audience who doesn't know Dr. Kate, she's a medical doctor, but she was Kobe Bryant's nutritionist for the Lakers. She has amazing New York Times bestselling books. And I asked her the question, I said, Dr. Kate, we see diseases on the rise, and if I gave you 3 scenarios, I want you to tell me which scenario causes disease faster. And I said, smoking cigarettes every day, number 1, eating processed sugar, number 2, or eating these inflammatory fats, these vegetable oils, number 3. She said, easy question, Ben. It's hands down the vegetable oils.
Really?
She said, look, smoking's not good for you, but you've pretty much done your damage when you finish that last puff. Processed sugar, not good for you, but you know what happens. You get a sugar spike and it goes back down. These vegetable oils, these bad fats, the half-life is 680 days. So if we stopped eating them today, about 2 years later, they're going to be in our cell membranes, the mitochondrial membranes, creating chronic inflammation. And they're in a bunch of kids' products. They're in a bunch of they're all over. They're in about 80% of our food supply. They're all over the Whole Foods bar, hot food bar. Like, people think Whole Foods has everything that's healthy. That's not the case.
They have these fats.
Everywhere. So when I go to restaurants, like we were just eating at the Wynn, I tell the server, I actually use this. I use this as a seed oil allergy card. And I tell the server, I'm allergic to these vegetable oils, and it has all 8 of them. Please use these healthier swaps. I don't want to take the hit. So I show them the card, and you could actually have that. That's for you.
I'm going to take this.
Yeah, take that. That's for you.
No, sure, because, okay, explain, when they talk about the bad fats, so you're saying, like, if you eat it, because people out there would say, like, why would it be so bad? Because they hear about something like a bad fat. So does a fat injure your cell to the extent, like, it doesn't allow things to, like, good nutrients to get into the cell? How does it affect the cell, like with the mitochondria and the energy production?
First, I'll say that not all seed oils are bad for you. Okay. It's because the ones that are bad are the ones that are processed, but most of them are the processed variety. And the reason they're so bad and inflammatory is because of the chemical structure of these fats. They're called polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Okay.
So the word poly means many.
Yep.
So the more, it has many double bonds is what I'm trying to say. So these polyunsaturated fats contain many double bonds that are closely located to each other. The more double bonds a fat has, the more unstable it is, the more aggressive it is at attracting oxygen and heat, making it go rancid right away. And what do they use to process these fats? High temperature, chemical agents. It goes rancid right away. And then we heat them up even more. It's already rancid. It's a bad fat. So to answer your question, those fats integrate into our cell membranes, where those receptor sites are for our hormones and for oxygen and for nutrients around the mitochondrial membrane. And it blocks good things from getting into the cell and bad things from getting out of the cell, creating cell membrane inflammation, chronic cell membrane inflammation.
So if the cell can't basically breathe, then you're not going to get nutrients into it to actually run energy and get rid of toxins. They get kind of trapped, so you have a sick cell, basically.
That's exactly it. If I burn firewood here, and there was not a damper to get rid of the smoke, this would be a toxic environment. Same thing is happening at the cell level when there's bad fats around that membrane.
So a half-life of over 600 days would mean, if this may sound like I'm being a downer, I'm not, but like if I was a kid and I loved Pop-Tarts, and man, I ate so many Pop-Tarts. I'm not kidding. And I ate so many toaster strudels. Hands down, king of toaster strudels. and I think about how many I ate, and you have a half-life. So people, what it means is it takes how long, like half the time for the thing to break down. Mm-hmm. And if it's over 600 days, it stays in that long in your body. You accumulate over the years, and then you have this accumulation, and then you're in inflammation state for most of your adult life or something. And so people are like, I got diabetes, I got autoimmune.
That's right.
And so now we're seeing where, when you go to the market, when you see the label, what are the things like, you tell people like, if you see this on your label, do not eat it because it's a bad fat, or is that what are the main things? Or one person told me, if you can't pronounce it,
it's a good tip.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, don't buy it. Yeah, that's a good tip in general for like ingredients, right? If you can't pronounce it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
For the fats though, Dr. Kate did a good job kind of classifying them as a hateful eight. So we have canola, corn, cottonseed, which are on there. Soybean, safflower, sunflower, rice bran, and grapeseed oil. Those are the hateful eight. So if it has any...
Everything.
I know, pretty much anything. No, but the good ones are on there. So avocado oil, olive oil, butter, ghee, beef tallow, even lard from healthy cows. These are all better. Duck fat. We want saturated fats, which have no double bonds. Yeah. They're really stable. Monounsaturated fats like avocado and olive oil contain one double bond, so they're still a little bit more stable than the polysaturated fats.
This makes so much sense to me because, like, my grandmother was raised in Georgia, and she used to eat lard and heavy lard, and she wasn't really heavy at all, but she used to tell me she would eat lard every day, and she would cook with it and everything.
Smart.
And I know her genetics was probably decent, but she never ate towards the end of her life, she would eat Crisco, but she lived till she was 93 or 94. Wow. And it was really funny because you're talking about these lard and different types of fat. They used to keep, she used to cook bacon and keep the fat near the windowsill.
That's a good fat.
And she would just cook with it, right?
Then the low fat craze came about, and we forgot about all of that. We started using Crisco and margarine, and I can't believe it's not butter, and it's the low fat craze that destroyed us, man. It's just
Fabio.
Yeah, Fabio. Remember that, right? Yeah, I remember those commercials. Damn it, Fabio.
I guarantee his hair got horrible after eating that bad fat. He probably bald. Sorry, Fabio. I won't say it, but when you see the metabolic change, we're starting to see this movement, even when you describe it, we're getting rid of fats, hopefully get rid of the high sugars. One of the things I think that people, when they listen to you, is are you starting to see, do you believe, higher incidences of chronic infections? People say I have parasites, I have bacteria, I have, strep or something. Do you think that they accumulate in the body because we're already in this high inflammatory state? Do you think that's why our bodies attract so much infections and such?
You know a lot more about this than I do, but I think they're opportunistic, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too. But I think heavy metals play a big role there.
Oh yeah.
When there's a lot of heavy metals, I think that it leaves opportunity for these infections, these hidden infections, to flourish, especially like Candida, right? They feed off of metals and sugar as well.
Yeah, and they'll metabolize it sometimes like ethanol. So people come in and have brain fog, and because they're inflammatory. Of
course.
The infections eat the actual components of the sugar, and they'll create ethanol. You can read about it, and then people say, well, I feel like I'm drunk. And I'm like, well, I didn't drink anything. I'm like, well, your high inflammatory state. So all of this starts to show people, they're listening to this and go, yeah, I've had this, I have brain fog, I have body, joint pain, arthritis pain. Do you have I love hearing stories, and when you start to see somebody their eyes wake up and they open their eyes, what are some of eye-opening stories? I just love, because you have good stories, man, when people come in and they're actually healing pretty well.
Yeah, so in my academy, in my online programs, there's a lot of those cool stories. It's cool to see that. They'll come in thinking they're learning keto or fat loss, and they are, but we're starting with a mindset shift. We're starting with the self-image. We're talking about that first, and it's cool to see somebody come in with the victim mindset. Yeah. Most people do have a victim mindset. That's just the case. That's the way we are. And for them to take ownership and responsibility, and for them to understand how incredible the human body is. Yeah. It doesn't matter how many symptoms you're dealing with. You know, and speaking of which, I think symptoms are not a problem. They're a gift from the human body. They're the body's check engine light, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
It's always the body's communicating with us, but we've been brainwashed to believe a symptom or a disease or diagnosis is we should hate it. But this is the way the body's communicating to us. This is a really important check engine light. Thank God we have this system in place, right? So, I mean, I'll give a couple examples. A friend of mine, Sander, he was using a sleep apnea machine. He was obese. He was pre-diabetic. He had has a wife and a kid, and he was going down a wrong path, right? So we started focusing on his self-image. We started getting him on ketosis, getting him out of ketosis, practicing fasting. He was eating out a lot, so he was eating a lot of these vegetable oils. We swapped the fats for healthier fats. He was sacrificing sleep to wake up and go exercise and go to the gym.
Oh, man.
So I actually told him, don't even work out right now. Get that extra hour and a half of sleep and we'll start adding in the activity later, right? So he lost about 70 pounds. He got off a sleep apnea machine. His wife got inspired. She lost 35 pounds, right? So it's just cool to kind of see the ripple effect of how this happens. And the main thing is like he's no longer a victim of his slow metabolism or enabling family members. He took ownership and responsibility. And that is the first step, taking ownership and responsibility. That's the first step to great change.
And it's like, seeing if you have like your victim mindset, rethinking about how you want to look at your life to like make some changes, man. I'm like, man, I know more people, like when I listen to this, like I think that it inspires me about like with my patients, truly about listening to their words. Because like when we talk about changing a person's perspective of who they are, one of the things I deal with a lot, like homeopathy, and one of the things that you have to tell a person sometimes, like even with metabolic issues, is that they've just forgotten, like their organs have forgotten, like what it is to be, I hate to use the word normal, but how to operate in a balanced way.
Yeah.
And you can see like how a person's think will change the shen, the mindset of the organ. And it is pretty alarming. It's like, but we eat so many types of food. We didn't mean to. Your mom had Kentucky Fried Chicken. I ate Burger King for crying out loud. And I'm changing the mindset of my organ. My organ's like, hey, I don't want to eat any more of this. And I'm like, you're eating it, bud. And then it gets tired, and then our mind changes. And so I'm thinking like, I always find like I give people homeopathy, and this is a funny thing. It's like it reminds their organ, kind of wakes them up because their organ's kind of used to it by now.
Yes.
Start to tell them like, you need to detox this, and they'll literally tell me stuff like, man, I had a memory the other day. It was like when I was 5 years old. Lots, brother. Like they'll just like remember stuff because you just remember what you're supposed to do, And I think that in the health world, it's just about rebalancing, just trying to remind the body you can heal, you can get back to it. I mean, and you got such inspirational words, and I mean, like when you came on here, like when Bev and Christy's told me you're going to come on here, I was like, man, this is going to be a good convo, man. It's like, because you're a busy guy. I mean, like, what's happening in the future for you? Are you continuing like more writings, more media? What's in the future for you with all of the new things you're coming up with?
I appreciate that. I love what you do. It's an honor to be on this podcast.
Come on, man.
Seriously. This has been so much fun. You're a great host. And you're going to come on my podcast tomorrow.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm living on purpose with my purpose. This is what I've been put on earth to do, which is crazy, by the way, because I never would have thought this. But sometimes your pain turns into your purpose. And actually a lot of the time. So if somebody's going through pain right now, that might be actually where your greatest purpose is and your opportunity is. So that was the case for me. So for me, the book Metabolic Freedom comes out May 13th, 2025.
Let's go.
Really excited about that. I think it's going to change the lives of so many people. Definitely will write more books in the future, do more speaking, and just get out the message, do more podcast interviews with great people like you.
Oh,
I just want to educate, bro, just like you.
I can tell, like I'll say this, guys, when you look at, and we do a lot of like Chinese medicine, like facial body diagnosis. Like one thing I can tell about you is like, you're always going to grow. Like we call you wood elements. We're like wood elements. Like you'll always take ideas and make them grow and make them very approachable and simple to understand. And so like when people come to you, I just want to encourage you, like you're going to keep like, you'll make people grow. It's just like in essence. And I also know this, like you can see through things really well. Like you can tell if something's like not the real deal or the real deal. So the thing is like, trust this guy, the way, what he writes and such. So anyway, man.
Thank you, bro.
Okay. So Instagram feed, website, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the book, you could get the book over at metabolicfreedombook.com. Instagram is at the Ben Azadi.
The Ben Azadi.
The Ben, well, only because Ben Azadi was taken, not because no ego there.
Sorry, Ben. Okay.
And then the Metabolic Freedom podcast, which you're actually coming on tomorrow. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, brother. Man, thank you so much. I mean, kindred spirits, I really do appreciate it, my friend. From everybody here at the Ancient Health Podcast, I'm just going to say, if you like what you hear, shoot us some comments, give us a like and subscribe, but check out his podcast. He's got a lot better statistics, like he'll educate you. Like, I'm just telling you. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.